Hello and welcome to A Very Full Plate, the podcast where we're all about real food talk with real parents. Your hosts for today are Amy, a natural foods chef and mom of two, and Emily, a professional home organizer and mom of three. Take it away, ladies.
Hi friends, thanks for joining us. I'm your co-host Amy. I turn parents into kitchen ninjas to help them feed their families healthy food more often. I'm all about balance, real life, and having fun in the kitchen. You can find me at cookingwithafullplate.com and my Facebook page of the same name.
Hey guys, this is Emily. I'm a professional organizer who helps my clients simplify their lives so that they can experience harmony in their homes again. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram or visit hallharmonyhomes.com. Come along with us while we celebrate our small victories and laugh at our challenges. And thank you so much for listening.
Hey everyone, so excited to have you here today with us, Amy and Emily. We are going to be talking about the dirty truth about eating clean, digging into some of the details around what eating clean really looks like in our lives, how it affects our lives, and how some of this might apply to what eating clean looks like for you if you're just getting started. So Emily, so excited to chat with you today. This is our first non-interview style conversation podcast.
Me too. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a relevant topic for the week that we've had too at home. It's vacation week. We're doing renovations. There's a lot of reality checks going on in our household.
Oh man, I'm not even home this week. I'm in LA helping with some family stuff. Some of the folks who join me at Cooking with a Full Plate know that my dad has brain cancer, and so we're dealing with a bunch of stuff with that, and we're here helping take care of him, but I have the two kids with me in tow, and it's just life is really real, I think, for everybody right now.
Honestly, I'm not sure it gets much more real than that. You're traveling, you're dealing with, your dad being sick and little kids, and kudos to you for holding it together.
Yeah, I have really learned that holding it together looks really different based on where you're at in your life. Oh, and by the way, my husband's running the Boston Marathon today as we're recording.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it's a beautiful, dreary, 30-degree rainy day here in Boston.
Oh man, I feel so bad for him. He has worked so hard for this, and he had big aspirations to best what he did last year and trained so hard, which has involved a lot of sacrifices from our whole family, as you know. Yes. And he's going to do his best, which is something we talk a lot about with our son.
Yes. I mean, yeah. Weather in races and factors that you can't control, it's so hard to just let go of it. But there's a lot of that parallel with parenting and feeding your family too. It's
I was thinking I was thinking as I said, do your best, that actually was a perfect segue into our conversation around the realities of eating clean with a family, with kids, with all of the things that happen in life. Because I'm doing my best, but it does not look like what I think a lot of people look like when they picture, oh, that family eats healthy.
Right.
And I'm sort of excited to demystify or take away that myth of when you eat healthy, when you develop the habit that everything's perfect and wholesome and you don't have any of the struggles. And by the way, my sister and brother-in-law are out picking up donuts for breakfast this morning. So our reality is a mix of constantly trying to find balance and eat some vegetables every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Our kitchen is under renovation. And so that makes it super hard for me to prepare those sort of healthy chopping up snacks. And we sort of just randomly are let's just tear down this wall. So there's no 3 weeks ahead, I froze a bunch of stuff. Nope. It was can I get in under that towel so I can grab a banana for someone? Or, I usually like to start with this really awesome breakfast with eggs and veggies and sauerkraut because I love that with my coffee, but it just has not happened for 3 days. And whenever I start off bad, I end bad at the end of the day. I'm too much chocolate, too much processed stuff, go into the cupboard or, cabinet. I'm like an old lady cupboard. To the cabinet for, not processed stuff, but, snacks. And instead of, chopping veggies and stuff. So it's been one of those weeks where we've eaten at Chipotle, we've eaten at, a Thai place. We've done things that we never do just to get through the days. And some of it is kind of fun and novelty, and some of it is a huge regret,
Yeah.
But I can't sit there and think about that. So we are.
It's such an interesting thing because I'm having the same thing being here, not in my environment, which like in my house, my entire strategy for eating well is to keep junk out of the house. And that's not because we don't eat junk. But I know personally for me, if I have it in the house, I'll eat all of it. And you and I have talked before about like digging into the container of goldfish because life gets stressful and kids are crying and it's like 4:30, which is not quite close enough to the time that my husband gets home from work. And I'm like eating handfuls of goldfish. And so I've learned that if I don't have those things in my house, it makes it a lot harder to eat them because I'm not going to go to the store to buy goldfish to gorge on, right? Like in that moment. Yeah. And now being here out of my environment at my parents' house, they have a lot of really healthy stuff. My dad's on a ketogenic diet and we're like really being careful about what he eats. But it's so interesting how that hasn't translated to necessarily the best things for me to eat. So it's like there's potato chips in the cabinet, which is a total novelty for me. There's also like a ton of candy because my mom likes candy but has a level of self-control that I've just never had. And so she can keep Swedish fish around and not eat them. But I just don't find that to be the case. And so like last night as I'm like digging handfuls of Swedish fish thinking like, I don't care about eating sugar. It's okay here and there, but I'm not even enjoying this.
Have you ever eaten something so fast that you're like, that was not worth it? Like you realize at the end of it that you didn't
all
even
the time. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that I'm talking about and why I don't keep this stuff in my house is like, I can find a real joy in being like, I want a great scone. I am going to go on Yelp and I'm going to look for the best scone in Seattle. And then we're going to like take an outing and we're going to enjoy it. And I have not always felt this way, but I have really like perfected for me the art of being like separating and being like, I feel no guilt about this. This isn't, I've been calling it intentional indulgence. Like this is a choice that I made and then I did it. Mm-hmm. But the things that really trigger me from a like guilt and food perspective are exactly what you're talking about. Those things where I'm like, that food controlled me because I didn't even know I was making that choice. And suddenly my hand is like elbow deep in a bag of Costco Swedish fish. I'm like, what am I doing here? This isn't even what I want.
I know. And I have the same tactic where I can't buy it. Like endangered species caramel, like squares. If I buy that at Market Basket or that's our grocery store here, it will be gone before my husband gets home from work. So I can't even buy it because he'll be like, did you eat that? And I'll be like, yup.
Like, that's where you're making the mistake. I just hide all evidence. The problem with goldfish is those are my husband's snacks. So he'll be like, where'd all my goldfish go? But if I buy my own snacks, the kind that he doesn't like, which is like, he doesn't like baked goods and I don't like ice cream. So the ice cream is his and the baked goods are mine. So he won't even notice if I ate all the cookies.
Yes.
But I notice, right? Yes. Which is what actually matters.
Yes. No, we're the same way. I'm the ice cream, we don't really eat a lot of ice cream anymore, but it's some kind of frozen dairy, non-dairy dessert or whatever. But always in the past, ice cream. Could care less about cookies, brownies, whatever. My husband was a cookies person. So same thing. Like, I'm like, I'll buy these because I won't eat them,
Yep.
And then of course he's like, why'd you buy these? And I'm like, well,
it's so funny that you say that because of course my husband gets a pass because he's running marathons right now. So like from a health perspective, not ultimately forgiving, but from a like weight maintenance perspective, which I think for a lot of us is a trigger for knowing that you're off course.
Yes.
He just needs the fuel so he can like horse anything and it's fine. And I have to remind myself that I can't keep up with him because if I get 30 minutes of exercise a day, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But we joke that our 3-year-old has gotten my husband's ice cream sweet tooth and my baked goods sweet tooth. And so all he wants is sweets. And the other day he was literally lying on the ground at the end of the day. He was so tired and probably hadn't eaten enough because he never has eaten enough and we can't get him to. And he's lying on the ground being like, sugar, 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 just chanting sugar. And I'm thinking like, this is not what I envisioned for my life and my family when I
when you went
was like, I'm not gonna feed my kids fruit first because I don't want them to develop a sweet tooth. And it's like, here's a 3-year-old chanting sugar. And
I kind of wish you got it on video.
if I hadn't been, wrangling the 11-month-old and also like banging my head against the wall while it was happening, I might have thought to capture that.
I know. And it seems like you've been doing a little bit more, quote unquote, not, real single mom, but single momming lately with the travel and your husband training and working so much. So you really are just like, you're in it right now.
Yeah, it's given me a real appreciation. I joke about this sometimes, but when I was teaching at Whole Foods, it's really easy to be a very clean eater and to have a lot of restrictions, I should say, because we were doing a lot of like vegan stuff and green smoothies all the time and all that when you don't have kids. And I think back to the things I taught in classes now, which were not exclusively to people who didn't have kids, right? It just was where I was at in my life. And I think about the type of advice that I gave, and I'm like, wow, I had no idea what the reality of eating healthy with a family looks like. That you have multiple opinions from the second your kids are born. You have like multiple opinions you're catering to. You have less time than you ever thought possible, less energy to think about it than you ever thought possible. And it's just been a really fascinating journey to sort of start adjusting my expectations of myself and my family. And I've been trying to practice. It's not something I'm good at, but something I'm practicing is just giving myself grace and saying, we're going to have donuts and we're going to have some fruit this morning. And then we're going to move on with our lives. And at lunch, we'll have some vegetables, maybe. And then we'll keep living.
You know what? I want to clap because I think every parent who has ever received any advice from a non-parent who is doing everything methodically and perfectly and without variables would just go, oh my God, yes. Like that quote, I was the best parent before I had children. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
And I'm just as guilty as anyone, and anyone out there who doesn't have children and is reading really well, this isn't really a knock at you, but it is a reality check to say, maybe I need to think twice about the way that I'm wrapping my head around what it looks like and have a little more grace for other people. And I think we're all seeking that. And that just totally resonates with me because with every subsequent child, it became more complicated. And it does for everyone. And there are certain things you can do, but I was reading this book last night, before I passed out. I think I got 10 pages of it in.
That's a lot.
I know. But you know what? I was kind of half waiting for the baby to wake. So I was like, I may as well not go to sleep.
I know that too well.
It's called Heal Your Mind, and it's by Louisa Hay. Do you know anything about that author? She's an awesome
No, I don't.
author, but she's a great resource. She actually recently passed away, but she has a whole story. You'll have to look it up, Google it. But it talked a lot about, I was reading a chapter about anxiety, which is something I've always dealt with. I know most people have had some level of anxiety in their life. And one of the things it was talking about was to just completely erase the could have, should have, would haves of your life. You cannot have regrets like that. You have to say, that's what happened. That's what I did. And what could I do next time? What could I do differently? Instead, you talk about the future, your opportunities. And while I was reading that, I thought, oh my God, it's so applicable to even things we talk about in this podcast. Like you need to let go of your past behaviors and your relationships with food as much as possible and think about what you could do differently in the future. Or you could give yourself grace, like you're saying. Like, should I beat myself up? No, I should say, I did that. And you know what? I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And I'll move on, and maybe I'll do better next time. Maybe I won't, but I'm not going to look back every time,
Yeah, what you're saying is resonating with me so deeply. I actually took a deep breath during that. I was like, I need to let this soak in, because you often hear people say like, we're shoulding ourselves to death, right? Like you're spending so much time on, I should do this, or I should have done that. And I love this idea on focusing on could have. Like I could have made a better choice than eating half a bag of Swedish fish last night. What can I do to empower myself to do that? And for me, the answer might be as simple as like buying the bottle of wine so that I can have the glass of wine I really wanted, but was substituting with something else and then ended up eating more of than it would have taken to just like satisfy that place where I was like needed an adult indulgence at the end of a long, difficult day.
Mm-hmm.
And it could really be that simple if instead if I focused on that instead of being like, oh my God, how did I do that? And now, the scale is going to reflect it and I need to work out more and all of these things, which is not actually how I'm feeling, but is something I have felt like countless times in the past.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. When it comes to, this is something that I think applies to our topic, but it's just a sort of a personal aspect of life. I find that there are times or stages of my life, it could be a week, could be a month, could be a day, where I feel so on it. You know what I mean? I feel so like I'm in, my massage therapist called it, you're in the vortex. Like everything in your life is now integrated well. You're on the food, you're on your mental, you're on your parenting, your house is kind of clean and you're just like, or, your work is going great.
Yeah. We used to call that flow at Whole Foods. That was like a big keyword. Like, when are you in the flow? So totally with you.
And then there's the spiraling down vortex where, like you just said, you're negative, talk to yourself, you're negative. Oh my God, why did I eat that chocolate? And the house is so messy and the kids are whining because I'm not paying attention to them and I'm not ahead of my work or whatever. And all of a sudden you eating something you wish you didn't eat becomes, my life is a disaster. Whereas if you had the wherewithal to say, it's okay, I wanted that, I ate it, and I'm taking it with me to my next day, and instead of this spiraling down. So I find that if I'm not up, I'm down, and jumping from one to the other can be quite the heave. But I think grace is such an important aspect of eating well or trying to eat well or just trying to take care of yourself, whether it's eating or negative thoughts. It's all related.
Well, they're so closely related, right? And I think, especially when you're responsible for other tiny lives, like the stress for healthy eating for me now is heavily wrapped up in, I want to lay a good foundation for my kids and I want them to be healthy and I want them to know how to live healthy lives. And it is easy if you don't stay focused on the macro of like, this is for their whole life, not just for this one day, to start thinking like, oh, I shouldn't have let them do that, or I should have done this differently. And I've been starting to question like, should dessert be at the end of the meal, or should I start exploring like how to not motivate kids with sweets and those kinds of things. And all of these are things that I'm thinking about. But if I think about them as like, in the future, should I do this? It feels good, like I'm being proactive. But if I think about like, oh my goodness, I've ruined my 3-year-old already because he's on the ground chanting sugar, then it feels not productive. It just feels, ugh.
Yes. The productive word is exactly what I'm hearing when you're telling me this. I'm thinking, and you're wasting all this time where you could be doing something fun or prepping your next healthy meal or,
just enjoying this.
Or laying on the floor with your son.
Life that you have.
Sugar. That's what I would want to do. Like, yeah, let's start a song about sugar.
I too want sugar. Never more so now than when you are lying on the ground chanting sugar.
I might get down and just go, wine, wine, wine. But
you know me so well.
No, I get it.
I love this. And I think one of the things we had talked about in the lead up to this podcast was talking about the realities of what healthy eating actually looks like. And I think both of us had similar anxieties in our interviews being aired in the first couple of episodes 1 and 2, were us interviewing each other and revealing the inner workings of how healthy eating works in our family. And I don't know about you, but I walked away feeling like I shared a lot of realities, like all of it was real. And I didn't necessarily share all of the realities.
Yep.
And so we wanted to come here and kind of peel back that layer and say, even though we're here talking about healthy eating, we don't have it all figured out. And there are a lot of complexities to making this happen. And kind of like, if you're listening and you're feeling like you don't have it all figured out, we're with you. We're here trying to have conversations so that all of us can understand each other a little bit better and know the common struggles and figure out how to do better and focus on that instead of focusing on what we're doing wrong, right?
Right. And the last thing I want to do is come off as like we do everything perfectly, but there are drawbacks and challenges that we all experience and every single day.
Yes. And I think your family probably fits a little bit more in that like clean eating category. Because of necessity, because of the way that food makes you feel, which is something I'm a huge proponent of, is like not focusing on foods that are good or bad that someone else has defined, but finding what works for you and what feels good to you and making those decisions accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about some of the challenges of eating in a way that suits your family, in a way that you've found nourishes your family, and navigating that in a real world that doesn't necessarily support that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You know what, it is a challenge because even though I sit here and I say like, oh, we're not perfect, but we are pretty strict because of necessity. So it's not like, you know, we have quite a few indulgences that some people laugh at because they're like, my kid would not count that as dessert. And I'm like, well, somehow we've managed to pull that off.
Can you give an example of what that is? I'm super curious.
There was one point where in the summer I can get away with frozen fruit as dessert.
Amazing.
Old. Or like we could make a popsicle if I'm really, really organized and like 2 weeks beforehand, I'm like, I'm going to make popsicle on a whim.
And then you've forgotten about them and then they're ready.
But for some reason, if we just like kind of yell with excitement with them, they're like, yay. And I'm like, I know this isn't going to last, but at least I could do it until they like are around a ton of like peers and their friends are like, I'm eating this or whatever. I don't know.
Totally.
So what I'm saying is our reality of eating is pretty strict. However, there are many challenges and drawbacks. And number one, this is our one battle. Like we have given up a lot of other parenting struggles just to make sure that this continues because everything's exhausting. Like our kids are awful sleepers, awful, like always in our beds. We're always sweating, kicking each other. We're never sleeping well because I don't have the energy to fight all the battles. And I'm like, this is a battle I am waving my white flag. Like we got a king size bed. Someday you'll sleep in your own bed and I'll be pulling you out, you know, trying to get you to go to school. And it's because I suck at sleep training and I am a sucker for a kid who's crying. And I envy people who have figured that out. And I'm sure their children are perfectly healthy but I'm terrified. And so I guess what I'm saying is we all have these battles, right? And some people don't want to fight the food battle because they've got a kid who's super picky or whatever the reason is. Maybe it's hard to just get them to eat anything. But for us, this became the one battle. So all of our eggs are in our food basket. You know what I mean?
It actually goes exactly to what you were talking about with the Heal Your Mind book. And I'm going to include a link to that in the show notes so that people can find it, including me, because it sounds like I need it. But of this focusing not on should, like I should have my kids be perfect sleepers and learning to read by the time they're 2. Mm-hmm. And, you know, who knows what other shoulds. I'm sure I have a million of them that are just not at the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But you've really gone all in on one. And it goes to this idea that I feel often, which is like you only have so much energy, period. Done. And you only have so much self-control, period. And that goes for adults and for kids. And I think we often overestimate both of our levels of self-control and energy to dedicate to things. And it's like people might look at your guys eating, and I think even I do, and I'm like, oh man, they're doing so well at this. Like I am failing comparatively, right? I'm failing comparatively. And I just so appreciate your honesty in saying we might be really succeeding there because life has told us that's where we need to focus our efforts and that's where we put our energy. But that doesn't mean we also get to have a clean house and mm-hmm. a Pinterest-worthy playroom and, you know, kids who are at the top of their class. Who knows what people are worried about.
Exactly. And for me, it's also like I'm realizing how behind my kids are. At least it feels that way. They don't have a lot of organized activities because one, I'm using my energy to get the food on the table. And two, we don't have any money for it because our food is expensive. So when people are like, my kid has signed up for 3 things, I'm like, my kid has signed up for 1 and I actually can't even afford it. Like,
yeah.
So now don't get me wrong.
That's real.
Yeah, I'm trying to rebalance it. I've got them in swim lessons now. I'm trying to give them other life skills. I'm trying to not obsess too much about the food, but it took us a long time to get a flow with our food and feeding the family and figuring out who will eat what. That's not that expensive, but still fits the bill. And so it's like I'm waxing and waning and I'm starting to think about, okay, I can forgive some of this stuff as long as we do the bare minimum, you know, mm-hmm. with the food. So I guess my point is, just because I might be feeding them really well doesn't mean that I've nourished them in every facet of their life perfectly. And I'm still struggling with many battles.
I'm so glad that you're not perfect. You're pretty fantastic. I hope you know that. But I'm glad to know I'm not the only not perfect one here.
Yeah, I think nobody is. Who wants to be perfect? How boring. How boring.
That might be my favorite thing about being an adult, is being self-aware enough to be like, this is who I am, and I'm like so far from perfect, it's laughable.
Yeah.
And take me as I am, not because I don't try to do better, but this is kind of who I am.
Yeah. And they say everybody.
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Everybody's normal until you get to know them. So it's like we're all weird. So, and it can be a little bit alienating for my kids too, and I feel bad for them because we go to a birthday party. I'm like, you can eat the fruit, and that's a challenge that I'm still trying to navigate. People are getting a little more aware and being sensitive to that. But it's a challenge.
How do your kids seem to feel about that? And have you seen any like changes in them in terms of the choices that they make from doing this so often at home?
Yes, actually, just recently we were at a birthday party where they did have some like decent, like they had some gluten-free snack and fruit. And I was like, hallelujah. I don't feel like I have to say no to everything. But then there was cake, and my 5-year-old, who's not the one who's gluten-free, and I was like, you can have some cake if you want. And she was like, I don't want cake. It has too much sugary frosting.
That's so sweet.
And I felt so bad because I had to tell the mom, like, she doesn't want the cake. I'm not telling her not to eat it. Like I'm trying to let her be.
It's not
me. And she won't do that every time. But I think she said, I'd rather go home and eat my Easter candy. And I was like, fair enough. You just made a choice. And so that was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm not just restricting them. They're starting to get some kind of message, or they're at least starting to notice how they feel afterwards. And they're not always going to be perfect like that. And Maddie happens to be a very methodical kid who thinks ahead and plans ahead. That's her personality. So I think I'll see differences in all of them. But for me, it was a little gratifying. It was like, oh, like good. Like you're understanding what's going to make you feel, good or not bad or whatever. And planning ahead for the treat that you do want, because you're like me, at the end of the week, I want to have wine. So I'm not going to eat these potato chips.
This is so full circle, because it's exactly what I was talking about as an adult, struggling with the idea of intentional indulgence. And it's something I'm really working with my kids on as well, to say, you can have that, but you can't have everything. That doesn't just apply to food as I say it, I realize. But it does apply to food too. And it's like, it's not that we don't eat sugar, but we took a 10-day, I called it a 10-day sugar break before Easter, because I just felt like it had gotten out of control. As I was like horfing cookies myself, and then my son was chanting sugar, I was like, I think we need a break, because clearly and I've read all the research. I know that sugar is addictive, so I don't even put that as a judgment on us. But it is my job as a parent to see that and be like, all right, we need to separate ourselves. This has become an unhealthy obsession mentally, not even so much physically, but also physically.
Yeah.
And so we took a 10-day sugar break, and I really struggled with how to talk to my 3-year-old about it, because I didn't want it to feel like a diet or restriction. And I was like, this is actually really simple. And I often think about something you said in one of our first episodes, which is like, it isn't easy, but it's simple, which is like, we are taking a break from sugar because it's not great for us. And we're just going to practice enjoying the sweetness in things that are naturally sweet. And so we ate fruit instead of eating like sugary treats where we might normally have a piece of candy or something. And we didn't stop at the bakery on the way home from school, which is something we do like once a week as just a sanity saver for me and to get the kids out.
Yeah.
But it involves like a shortbread cookie like the size of my son's head. And I was like, no, we're not going to go there today, but we can bake something at home that's naturally sweetened with sugar. And by the end of it, he was sort of saying the same thing that I was, which was like, we're just taking a break from sugar right now. And he actually told his grandma that. And I thought, he gets it.
Yeah.
If I give him the space to get it.
Yes. Yeah. You know what's so funny is one time when Maddie was 3, because I knew she was into numbers, it just kind of came out of my mouth like, that's a number 1 food, which means it's the first food you should be putting in your mouth. And a number 2 food is like the second best. And a number 3 is like a dessert. And a number 4 is like candy. So now Maddie obsesses over making sure she has number 1 and number 2 foods to earn her 3 and 4.
I love that. My 3-year-old would love that because he, I think, is very similar to her, and maybe it's a first kid thing.
I think it is.
Their personalities, but it's like he's very much like, what's the order of things and what can I expect and what
Tell me what
should
exactly
I
is
do?
going to happen at this birthday party because I need to know.
Right. What's the schedule? I'm like, I don't need, I just found out this morning that it was happening. I remembered and it showed up in my email.
Yeah, so that actually has worked really well for like almost 3 years for her. And I don't know where it came from. It just like, that's a number one food, you know? And I have been meaning to share that with you because it might work like once in a while, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. My 11-month-old just eats everything. So I figure if I put some healthy things in front of him, he'll just eat them all. But definitely with the 3-year-old, it's a little bit more of a struggle. And it's something I'm personally struggling with. And I kind of mentioned this is I'm looking more into just like different styles of feeding. And one that has really resonated with me lately is this division of responsibility in food. It's like shortened to DOR. And I need to do some more reading on it. But they have this idea of not placing value on food and like just giving them healthy choices, but not also using dessert as motivation. And it's something I've been thinking a lot about is like, how do we accidentally put inherent value on food by the way we frame it to our kids?
Right. Like dessert is the most valuable thing. So I want it now.
Yeah. Like I have to work hard for dessert. So it must be the best thing.
Exactly. And you know what? When you shared that link about that, I gave my kids M&Ms with their dinner. Like, well, you know, not M&Ms, but you know, like Unreal M&Ms. And my husband's looking at me like, I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying something new. I don't want them to want dessert so bad.
That is so funny that you said that because the other day I gave my son a piece of brownie at dinner and I'm here with my family, right? So it's like my brother and my mom and my dad and like there's no more supportive and loving and judging you group of people because they're your family and you judge them. I'm not saying that they're judgy. But they were just like confused about what I was doing. And I was like, I am also confused. I don't know, but I'm just trying something here. The exact same thing you said. And you know what? He didn't eat all of his food, but he did actually eat a lot more of his other food at the same time that he enjoyed his dessert too. And I thought that was kind of fascinating. I had to share as we navigate.
Sorry. I had the same result. I found that they went for the dessert, then they went back to the meal. So I just decided maybe it's not so much dessert at the end. It could be, I'm going to have enough so I, you know, earned a little bit dessert, but then when I say I'm hungry again, I'm going to eat the rest of my dinner.
Yeah.
So we don't clean up dinner as fast. That's basically.
Right? It's just there for the enjoying. We'll have to revisit this as we experiment more. Maybe this month we can dedicate to experimenting on our kids because, you know, what good are they if not for experimenting and then sharing it with our listeners to let them know what we found.
Yeah. I'm glad you told me about that, your journey before Easter. I'm interested in trying something like that too.
Yeah. You know, I think all this parenting stuff, especially parenting stuff related to food, but not just parenting stuff related to food is like a series of experimentation and honoring your kids and figuring out what works and then doing it all over again because inevitably that will stop working.
Exactly. Trying something new. And you know what? If you're listening and you're like, I don't think about food nearly as much as you guys do, you're probably more normal. Because I noticed that some parents just don't. And that's okay. They're probably like, their kids are probably less stressed. You know what I mean? Like,
I would agree with you. And yet, I'm going to defend us right now, defend us to ourselves. I think it's always something. So to your point, for you guys, it's food. But if you're listening and you don't think about food nearly as much as us, one, good for you. But there's probably something you can identify with here because you have another thing that you focus wholeheartedly on. And I would say that's absolutely normal for us as human beings. I like to think so. And we want our kids to be well-rounded, and that requires us to be well-rounded in our focus as well.
Exactly. And they, you know, my stepfather used to always say, there's always something in your worry spot. So what's it going to be this week? You know, and it's so true. What's your focus?
Well, I think that's an awesome place to leave people is there's always something in your worry spot. What's your focus this week? And hopefully we have helped folks think a little bit more, or at least understand a little bit more for us, how healthy eating fits in and maybe doesn't fit in on a daily basis with our families.
Right.
Is there anything you want listeners to take away from this conversation today?
I want you all to throw away your should've, could've, would've's in the garbage and just move forward, whether it's food, parenting, life, relationships. That's my message, courtesy of Louisa Hay.
I love it. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll talk to you again next week with another awesome interview from one of your fellow mamas.
Thanks for listening.